Welcome to Make a Difference with Phil Martelli. He is Phil Martelli. I am Jared Phillips. And I just got to say right off the bat, obviously, I'm pumped. The Eagles want to know. I know you don't want to jump right to it, right off the rip with Birds Talk at the top of the show.
We don't do Birds Talk at the beginning.
But I have to say, pretty awesome experience taking in that banner raising ceremony. And I was lucky. I have to say, a good buddy of mine hooked it up for me and it gave me the opportunity to be at that game and in that moment. And it was a long one, a delayed one, but I mean, what an experience. And I mean, look, let's keep the main thing the main thing. The Birds are 1-0.
There we go. I mean, I will say I watched the ceremony and it was chills. You could feel it and the excitement, even with the people knew the weather was coming. I don't think anybody there anticipated that the Cowboys would drive down the field 3 times in the first half. I'm sure you were a little concerned. And I happened to hear a conversation on talk radio, and somebody said, "Yeah, but what did you expect?" And the guy answered, "Well, I expected to see the same thing I saw last February." But that's never the truth. Like your team is never where they were, good or bad. So again, the bits of insanity in the Philadelphia fan to expect that we're going to, well, why isn't it 40-6 again? So, but good for you. I'm glad because I know you are fanatical, and it leads me to this idea. Friendships are a big deal, and sometimes it depends on stage of life. So you're a youngster, a grade school kid, and you're thinking you're accumulating all of these friends. And probably they have a similar interest to you, or you can have you can play games with them as you grow. Then you get into high school and you say, well, there's a little bit of splintering. Well, that's what they like to do, and this is what I like to do. And you end up in high school moving away from those like neighborhood friends and more to a high school friendship. I always marvel at this at high school graduations, that very last week of school. If you go around to school, there's guys and girls hugging who haven't talked to each other, meaningfully talked to each other for 3 or 4 years in school, but they're going to stay in touch. We'll definitely stay in touch. And if you go back for your 5th year reunion and your 10th year reunion, that's the next time you see that person. And then you go to college and you kind of move into a real narrow friendship. Somebody that's maybe involved in music, or somebody involved in sport, or somebody involved in a academic pursuit that you want. All of these times. And then I've always said this, if you can come out of college with a handful of friends, then you've had a great college experience. And oftentimes in recruiting, I would ask a player, how many friends do you have? And they would answer with what? Well, are they your friends because you play? Because you're a scholarship? You have a scholarship athlete? Or do you know what a friend is? So the definition for friend for me would be, you're in a jam. You get one call. Who are you going to call? How many people on that list? And then you judge it by how many of them will show up. That's who you decide to call, because I know that person will be there for me. That's a true friend. Now flip it. How many people would call you? 2:00 in the morning, they're going home, they get a flat tire. How many people would call, and how many people would you go there to help? And that becomes true friendship. So we have a certain situation going on in our group out here, and that we have a friend that's really battling, and it's an awful disease that they've been diagnosed with. And then we have another friend who goes every week and stays connected. And this disease is robbing our friend of his memory and his relationships. And when we have one guy who shows up all the time. And finally, I had to ask him, do you ever leave and you're just devastated because your name wasn't remembered, or situation became not violent, but volatile. And his comment to me was, I'm with him for life. Powerful, powerful statement. And I wish for everybody out there that you had one friend and that they have one friend that would answer like that. Friendship is a strength of character. And not all of us have it. Not all of us have it. But it is worth thinking about that one phone call. You're convinced that person will be there for me. And then how many people think of you the exact same way? So you have a real friend because he thought of you instead of standing on Broad Street going, I got one. I got one.
God knows he
Do they
probably,
still do that?
made a little more money back had
are-
he done that. But
Are they still able to do that? Are there paper tickets?
I don't think you can. I guess you can still scalp if you tap your phones.
Oh,
I
my
don't know.
goodness gracious.
I think they've kind of
Too
eliminated
complicated.
scalping at this
Too
point. Yeah,
complicated. Really too complicated. But what's not complicated is the Martelli Minute.
that's absolutely correct.
And where can you find that?
Every morning at 6:30 a.m. at Phil_Martelli on Instagram.
And it's just a thought that maybe lifts you up through the day, something to create some mind movement, so to speak, brought to you by Status Solutions. Status Solutions is out there seeking safety technology for our kids and our schools and large corporations. They are the cutting edge, and every community can help their schools by just reaching out to statussolutions.com. Got to keep these kids safe. Preparation prevents panic. Bet on yourself. In times of doubt, stress, disappointment, staying the course will lead you past momentary defeat. Stay the course. Respect each other's differences. We've talked about that a lot. And that's one of the things that we bring with our guests. These are differences, but we respect each and every one because they're making a difference. Progress occurs when you stop delaying, stop debating, and start moving one step at a time. That's progress. And no matter what team you're on in life, and we're all on multiple teams, be a great teammate by passionately doing everything in your power to allow others to achieve success. Everything you can for someone else's success. And a meaningful conversation starts with eye-to-eye contact, because we all know this. The eyes tell you exactly what's in the heart. We have a master conversationalist. He just does it in big groups as our guest. And he probably has many Martelli minutes in his very active mind. But again, the Martelli Minute every morning, 6:30, Instagram, Phil_Martelli.
That's correct.
And it's free, by the way.
It is free.
We need everybody out there. And if you have a friend and you can pass it along, that's great. Because we just want to lift everybody for that moment and give them something to think about as they start their day.
Perfectly said.
Well, the guest segment has never, we're still getting the teacher segment, right? The teacher segment. Sal Pal gave us a shout out on one of his broadcasts. It's just unbelievable. And as I've been processing this over the year, our next guest is somebody that I had to have, because you get multiple guests with this one. It's not just one person. And we're going to hear that as we go. This is a little bit different view of Philadelphia, of which we are proud of, and Philadelphia sport. Check this out. We've had all Hall of Famers, and now we have 12-time winner of excellence in broadcasting. Who would have thought that? Who would have thought that? 12-time winner of excellence in broadcasting. In a tough town, and it's an honest town, but it's a tough town. He's maintained top billing for close to 40 years, going all the way back to being a public address announcer in the Philadelphia Catholic League I think he started when he was 15 years old, introducing starting lineups using his gift of mimic, if that's what it's called. But Philadelphia oozes from his pores. It oozes from his pores. And you know what else oozes from his pores? His family. It's a really big deal. Philadelphia, family first, Philadelphia. Creative, caring, a character with character. That could almost be a Martelli minute.
That's a good one.
Okay. Please welcome the man of, at one point it was 1,000. It's probably a lot more than that now. The man of 1,000 voices, a Philadelphia treasure, a dear, dear, dear friend, Joe Conklin. Joe, welcome to Make a Difference.
Take all the time you need. There's more written there.
Some of it was in crayon. I couldn't read it all.
Thank you, buddy. It's an honor to be with you. I was listening to the open, and I hadn't realized how long it's been to get a full dose of Martelli. This is very exciting.
Well,
it's good stuff. Great
I
stuff.
appreciate it. So, Joe, take us through your journey. Here you are, a Philadelphia kid, and now you're this top bill on any show you get to. How did we get here?
Well, it's funny. I was thinking this morning about coming on here, and you gotta like guys like you, me, Big Daddy, all the Philadelphia Catholic school people. There's a I don't know whether it's a bond or a brand even or a familiarity. These are the people that we grew up with, and Big Daddy used to say, Southwest and Northeast, it's the other side of the world. I had to go up the Northeast once. I took, 4 buses. It was an hour and a half. But no matter where it is, even in the suburbs, Catholic League North, South, I don't even know what it's called anymore, red, blue. There's this this I don't know, prototypical type of a person, I guess. It's a Catholic school row home person that was and you and I have that in common. And I think there's so much that comes with that, or comes from that or whatever. First of all, we've had this experience of living in a densely populated area and a very of the same religion. We had a couple publics on our block. That's what we called them. But they were playing sports with us too, and sports was everything. It was competition. I don't know how many kids were in your family, but I was one of 7. I was the 6th, and it was competition all the time, whether it was my siblings or my classmates or the people on the street. And it was always sports. And sports was how you kind of I don't know, made your way, figured out your value. Unfortunately, I mean, it makes no sense, but that's the way it was, And even if you weren't any good, you knew sports. You knew how to play. You knew how to hustle, whether you were an overachiever, even as you watched, then you could participate as a fan, So I just thought of this insane common experience. I shouldn't say insane. This common experience that we had with the Philadelphia Catholic League that was enormous in my view growing up. It was everything and the only thing. It was our entire world. Uh, Whether it was playing or following in sports, and it was church, and it was games, and it was after the games, it was the fights after the games, it was the racing at the 4th of July, and just the craziness. There was always something to do, and themes that are common are humility and gratitude. Like I think of when I first started, when I was in college. I wanted to be, well, it started when I was a little kid. I wanted to be a baseball announcer. I wanted to be Harry Callis, you know. But as you graduate, I went to Temple University. When I graduated, I was going through Temple, through a couple internships. It was like all this field. They used to try to talk us out of the field. It was so crowded. I think that was part of the curriculum was you better change your major because there's too many people here already.
Yes.
The discouragement was part of the seasoning. So you had to get past that. Um, and all we wanted to do was get a job in the business. You got a job in the business of broadcasting in Philadelphia, even outside of Philadelphia. It's just in the business. I mean, that was a home run. That was the goal. Work. Just get some work. How you doing for work? You getting any work? Is there any work down there? And that was everything. So that was always the attitude. And I think the neighborhood, my family, my siblings, and the neighborhood and the school all contributed to that. That was my whole upbringing. I mean, it takes a village and all that kind of stuff. It's true. You remember getting corrected or getting yelled at by a neighbor? Uh,
Oh, absolutely. Through the screen door. They didn't even come outside.
I know. That was commonplace, you know. So you didn't want to do anything wrong. Well, you did, but you always had to have caution wherever you were acting, because so and so's dad was tough, and he would come out and give you hell or whatever. But I'm getting sidetracked. But the theme was, you never get too big for your britches. I'm going to sound like an old man getting off my lawn and stuff a lot, because I do think that I'm cautious of that, not being that guy. But never get too big for your britches. You come from a big family. It didn't matter what happened or what you've achieved. You're always just here as a member of the family, and
Absolutely.
that's kind of the same thing with the neighborhood and your school. Um, you have to have humility, and if you don't have the humility, it'll get knocked into you somehow. There's always somebody smarter, faster, tougher, bigger, better. So there's always the balance. How do you gather the self-esteem, um, to push through, and every year, as you go through high school and college, every year is another level. It's a harder environment. How do you keep it? You got the entire school, the curriculum saying, get out of this business.
Right.
You know?
I had an opportunity last week to do a NCAA podcast with my son Philip, and that was one of the questions. Like, why didn't you talk him out of it? And I said, what are you kidding? Like, the life that I've led because I went into coaching, and if he wants to do that, then no, there's no chance. And then he talked about, well, I'm trying to talk my 15-year-old out. And I'm like, yeah, I don't get that. I never quite understood the pursuit of a dream is
Mhm.
your pursuit. Doesn't have to be doesn't have to fit somebody else's cookie cutter. Uh, Joe, first of all, I'm the oldest of 8.
Oh my gosh!
And
Wowzers!
um,
All right, that
and
explains a little bit.
yeah,
Being the oldest.
the I wanted you to take me into that family neighborhood background. You did such a great job. Just fill in some of that. Like, do people really understand what the family dynamic brought you here, and the neighborhood dynamic keeps you here in a way?
Yes. Well, it's funny. I don't know if this works anywhere else. I'm so provincial. Is that the right word?
Yeah,
My whole act, my whole I guess my whole job, my being, my existence, what I sell, my wares, it's all Philadelphia. It's
yes,
all it's all narrowed. You can narrow it down even to like a 2-block radius if you want. It's very narrow, and that was what was valued. They say, well, I've been asked, well, why didn't you go national, or why did you have aspirations of going beyond Philadelphia? Of course I did. Um, I had success early here in Philadelphia, so that kind of that kept me here a little bit. But I was winning. I was in, like I said, I had a job. I was working. All we wanted to do was work. Um, and getting back to the aspirations, the top of my field were people like John Facenda, Bill Campbell. They're in Philadelphia, and that's who I wanted to be. Harry Callis, of course, he's from out of town, but these are people who grew up in Philly, stayed in Philly, became, at the top of their game in the broadcast industry. I don't even, yeah, Facenda went national when he retired from Channel 10. But those were the goals. I never reset my goals. I always wanted to go, and like the Grand Slam was staying here and being at the top of the business. And I got to WIP within about 5 or 6 years. But I was right out of college. I got one of my internships led to being hired on the WCU FM morning team. Only 2 years out of school, I was 23. I was doing morning radio, and I get I've been blessed with tremendous opportunities, and was able to. Oh, you did okay. Come back again tomorrow, and that's
There
the
you
way
go.
it was. It was week to
Yeah.
week,
Come
and
back.
then I got a 1 year deal after that, and then of course they changed format, so I'm out of business, so I'm out of work. So I just got married too, so I'm out of. So here's the business smacking me in the face. You know, you're hired. You're almost like baseball managers in broadcasting. You're hired to be fired. Nobody, the things beyond your control, will, you know, they just happen to you. Anyway, to get back to your question about the neighborhood and the family, it's real. I mean, you talk about the family dynamic. There, all the people in your family, my family, if you go to the psychology thing, there's somebody who's a leader, there's somebody who's a mascot, there's somebody who's a star, there's somebody who's a struggler. And I think that dynamic is present in all families. We had it. Um, and you kind of find your way in there. And I don't know. I mean, just talk about getting too big for your britches. I mean, going to the edge. You don't want to go too far, whether it's with your own head or your comedy or your comments.
Yes.
Go to the edge, but stay within the boundaries of good taste or whatever. And I was thinking about. I remember Lou Holtz. I don't know if this is somebody else's quote or whether it was his. He said, "Don't do anything that you don't want to wind up in the newspaper, and don't do anything that you don't want your mother to find out about." And that's pretty. That's pretty good, you know. So that was kind of the guide. Even growing up, I mean, I don't think you like a lot of people say comedians get into one category. I don't believe that. I think there's a lot of different kinds of comedians, but there's not. It's humor is pretty uh, across the board. I mean, you need humor and everything. So there's all different kinds of personalities who are comedians. Um, but I was the type who, I guess, being at the end of the family, being the six, was always seeking attention. Hey, look at me over here. Look at
Right.
me. I mean, I can admit that now, but of course you didn't want to admit that growing up. You're just doing that for attention. What do you mean I'm doing it for attention? Well, I didn't know it, but I was, because I was I didn't meet my dad till I was about 13 or 14. No, I'm kidding. But you kind of you don't really have any rights, or you're not celebrated. I mean, everything's different now, and there wasn't anything wrong with that. It's just the way it was. But yeah, sure, I was seeking attention most of the time through negative behavior, but that was the quickest way to get it. um, I'm a born wise ass. I guess you probably qualify for that
Yeah,
too.
that's
uh, but that's where it comes from. It starts with, hey, let me try to mess this situation up somehow. And I'm blessed to have a talent which is genetic. Both of my parents were singers
wow.
at church, and my dad sang. He was classically trained as a kid, and he used his voice as a radio man in the service. He sang at mass, he sang funerals and weddings and things like that. My older sister was in a wedding band. She still sings at church. She runs the choir up at Our Lady of Good Counsel in Southampton. Both my brothers sing professionally in bands, on and off to some extent. So it's a God given thing. I had nothing to do with it. It's a genetic talent. And growing up, everybody was doing voices in my house. Believe it or not, it's my
Wow.
father did voices. My father used to imitate Bishop Graham, who was our pastor. He would call the home and tell him when the funerals were. We would be imitating different priests. I'm getting this from my older brothers and sisters. My sister used to imitate the nuns. So it was normal behavior in my house. I'm the only one who made a living as an impressionist, but
Wow.
it really was commonplace to take somebody off. Can you do what you call? Hey, give him a little bit of that.
Oh yeah.
Hey, you know, so you combine the seeking attention, the perpetual wise ass behavior. I still can't control my tongue at times. And sure, it's gotten both of us in trouble many, many times. Um, but it was always, a little rope, not too much rope. Oh my God, I'm in a discipline office again. Oh, I'm in trouble again. I'm grounded. What the hell happened? It was a constant cycle of that. And I'm blessed to be able to make a living doing the stuff I got in trouble for growing up.
The first radio gig, when you go in there, are you a reporter? Are you an entertainer? What did that look like? Your first gig there?
Well, it's weird because halfway through college, I had a job selling pots and pans and fine china. I went to Bermuda twice on these trips for sales competitions. So I thought I was going to be in sales. I had some moderate success, and halfway through college, as a broadcasting major, somebody got to me and said, the money's in sales. It's not in performance. You can get more money in sales. Besides, performance is far too competitive. You got a better shot. So I'm thinking, hey, I can always probably at some point do stand up comedy or try to get back into broadcasting. But and you always heard, hey, just get in the building somehow. Just get in the
Yes.
building, no matter what
Yes.
you do. So I thought a sales route was a good route, and it turns out that it was. So I graduated. I had an internship I'm sorry, between junior and senior year. I had an internship at Channel 17, still there, PHL, in the sales department, and a lot of their people went. They had a connection up in Trenton at a radio station called WKXW WBUD. So when I graduated, I got interviews lined up for those two stations. I got hired the summer after I graduated in August, and I had a job right away. I lasted about 6 months. Sales wasn't really for me. Too much free time. I constantly was looking in the studio trying to get behind the mic. Hey, can I read that commercial? Can I get on the air somehow? And I was out of a job pretty much because I wasn't selling. So I was out of a job for the following March or April. That's when I got into stand up. So I did that for better part, a year or so. And the guy a coworker from my sales job in Trenton, had moved on to Philadelphia, WCAU AM. He calls me out of the blue. Hey, we're getting together for a happy hour. Do you want to come out? Sure. City Line Avenue Fridays, famous the Allen
Yeah.
Iverson Fridays.
I was-
Before AI was there. So he brings a sales manager, a coworker, and he cues me up for doing some voices. Hey, do some boy, so I'm doing Tennessee Tuxedo and Rodney Dangerfield out in the bar, and he goes, they just hired a new morning guy next door at the FM station. You do your voices. They're looking for a guy that does voices. So I went home that night on my handheld tape recorder, made a tape. Wilson Good, Eddie Murphy, Rodney Dangerfield, got it out to him the next day. They said this guy's pretty good. Let's bring him in, and that's how it happened. And then I'm at WCAU FM on the air. I was barely on Temple Radio, RTI. I did like one sportscast a month for half a year. So yeah, I'm in this studio with this crazy guy named Terry Young who used to work nights is the motor mouth, and then now he's the morning maniac. And they said, yeah, that's when it was. You did pretty good. You can go back tomorrow. lasted a few months, and then they gave me a year contract. And
Wow.
in the middle of that, this guy had to go away for alcohol rehab. I was like, what the hell's going on here?
How about the pressures, Joe? Like, uh, you you're self-employed. You've always had to believe in yourself, and this whole thing, this podcast is about make a difference. So I say to people, start with you, make a difference. So how did you navigate that world of being self-employed and really believing in yourself?
Yeah, that's the whole thing in our business a lot is freelance versus having the full-time gig. There's tons of freelances in the radio and television. If you're a cameraman or you're even an announcer or swing guy doing weather, traffic, uh, you want to get that gig. Freelancing's tough because you don't know where your next paycheck is from. So another way of saying freelancing, you realize that you gotta hang a shingle. You have a business if you're a freelancer. You're basically ready to be hired, and you got to tell people why you're to hire you. So you got to have both. You're seeking the full time gig, and you got the shingle hung already. So and you can always do that. So that never goes. So you gotta. That's just at that point putting your head down and working. And I'm trying to answer the question. I don't even remember. See, I got married fairly young. I was 25, and I had kids, and we were just going. And
Yes,
then
that's good.
you just weather the speed bumps. I mean, I lost jobs. I was out of a job. My ex-wife carried the nut for a while in the family. She was a full-time nurse. I was Mr. Mom for a few years. Um, you do whatever you got to do, but you have to, and you got to believe that even though you got fired from your last two jobs, not from your from nothing you did, just because the business is rough. You got to keep pushing. You got to keep saying, "Oh, maybe the next time it'll catch, it'll happen." So I think the broadcasting industry is very tough in the volatility. You know what I mean? Volatile nature. And then you just got to get lucky too, and that's why I say about being blessed somehow. I caught a morning show that became legendary
Yes.
with Angelo. I was doing how I got to WIP. I was I was kicking around. My ex is working full time. I'm doing part time. I'm doing mobile DJ work in nightclubs. I'm doing weddings. I'm doing a Tuesday night comedy show at a seafood place on Rising Sun Avenue called Rolling Seafood. Uh, Anything to fill out the calendar, fill out the week to make ends meet. And I send my stuff, tape to WIP. It sits dormant for like 6 months. Followed up, called to everybody, the manager, Brookie, producers. Somehow, out of nowhere, Jody Mack calls me and he said, "Hey, we heard your tape. We want to have you on." I said, "This is great." So he brought me. By the way, Joe Wechter played him the tape. Joe Wechter was producing Jody. So
No.
I owe my WIP career to Joe Wechter. Wechter heard it, said he liked it, played it for Jody. They liked it. So Jody had me as a caller. I was calling in every Thursday at 2 o'clock for nothing, free. I mean, you got to work for free too. Um, and that led to Morgani hearing me, or our Wechter moved to the morning show. It was '93 when the Phillies were in the World Series, and I was doing stuff on Jody. They said they wanted me on the mornings, so they put me down there. It was part time for a while. Tony left. They made me full time, and I was on my way.
Wow. So all these years, Joe, I've often wondered this. Are there any voices that you tried and you just couldn't get? Is that
Oh,
a thing in your world?
hell yeah! Anybody you don't hear me doing, I can't do them. And I don't know. I've been asked this a lot of times. I don't know how it works. Honestly, I kind of mimic every sound, every voice I hear right away to see if there's anything there, just for the fun of it, just out of nature. And like I couldn't get John Madden down for the longest time, and it wasn't until Witch Cult did him. Another impression. Frank Caliendo.
Oh wow, yeah.
I don't know what he saw. Maybe it was something in the voice or whatever, and I still don't get him perfect. But boom. I just kind of stole whatever he was doing. Sometimes you hear another impression and you see what they're doing with one aspect of the voice, and they say, "Ah, I see what he's got there. Let me incorporate that to what I got. Oh yeah, that makes sense." It's like a little painting. You got to adjust the colors and the tones and things like that with a voice. Um, but most of my voices were so local, and
Yes.
nobody else was doing them. Every Eagles coach, Phillies broadcasters, things like, well, Harry Callis, everybody's got a Harry Callis. And that's not true. That's true. Bill Campbell was one of my early ones. And everybody in my family did a Bill. Are you kidding me? Remember Hello, everybody. Bill Campbell here. Phillies baseball and Ballantine beer. So that was from my older brothers too, doing them. Um, I don't know. Go ahead. I'm rambling.
Uh, you brought it up earlier, and I had it written down. I need you. I need you to. One of the common bonds with you and I is Big Daddy. Can you just there are people outside this area that don't. He's the quintessential Philadelphia Big Daddy, don't you?
Oh, without question. And he's so nuts. He's just a guy from the corner that we grew up
Yes.
with. And not to take anything away from the guy, because it was his strength. He didn't have the most talent in the world. He's an overachiever. I mean, sure, he's funny as hell. He had a great act, but he got through by pushing. He was the pushiest dude that I ever knew. And he just leaned in and kept going. If there was a crack of a door being open, he would kick it in the rest of the way. I'm talking about opportunity. Hey, so and so's doing a show on 1210. I want to do that. Why can't I do that? I'm good. I'm as good as him. And that was his attitude. And I'll tell you, he was my friend, and he was so many different things. At first, he was the dude that was the biggest guy. He was the biggest comedian in Philadelphia. Anybody who started a show, they always had to book Big Daddy at your place. He was on DeBella's show. He had these song parodies, a big deal. And I went to him. I seeked him out. I tracked him down. I actually booked him on a show first. I mean, that was my way of getting people, offering them work. Anyway, Big Daddy, he saw me. That's right. That's what happened. He saw me at a talent night, and he says, "Hey, you're pretty good. You can work. You can do this." He gave me the number of a guy named Paul Solari, who had a number of rooms. So, after a while, I started working with Eddie, and his name's Eddie. I keep going
Yeah.
back and forth. Eddie Gadanis. He was a mentor at first, and then he was a cohort. And he was a role model because of his audacity and his
That's a good word.
persistence. I mean, it's hard work. He showed everybody the way. I mean, it's a rough. You see it all the time now. The self promotion, and it's the hardest and really most sickening part of our business. Hey, come see me. Look how good I am. Constantly. And it's our job to keep doing that over and over on the social media, wherever, on any media. But Eddie was the first to do that, and he knew how important that was. He was his own best advocate, because if you're not, nobody else is going to do it. You got to go get it. You got to go tell people how good you are, how important it is for them to hire you.
So
So
I'm not even sure that Jared knows this, but you've heard the story about walking to the airport in 1964 to meet the Phillies coming back after they've basically blown the pennant. And one of the people in that group was Eddie Gadanis, who became Big Daddy Graham. And over time, I would say to people, no, that's not his name. This is his name. And by the way, he's older than he keeps telling people, because he's older than me. And I know he's now listing himself as younger.
he was a great liar. He was his own publicist, and his own liar. He was
Oh, he walked through Southwest Philly, just what you just said. We walked through there, just going to try to find something to do. And I don't mean anything to box ball here and wire ball there. He was always in the front of the pack, and you'd be like, he's the same as me. How's he have this really the balls to do it this way?
yeah,
He did.
yeah, yeah.
He really did.
And that was his key the whole way. The whole way. He would get at work at the radio station. Hey, who do I see for who tickets? You know, where do I get a shirt like that? You know, the free shit. I mean, just anything that he could get. And Eddie, what are you doing taking the oranges off that thing over there? Why are you taking that can? No, they want us to take them.
How about the lifestyle? How about the lifestyle? All those years doing that overnight and
Oh,
coming up with enough material to fill up, like, what is that, a 4-hour shift, a 5-hour shift
it was
overnight?
brutal. It was so brutal. I mean, the dude, you know, honestly, his best quality was his toughness. You got to be tough to do that.
Wow.
You got to be tough to take that um I was going to say level of rejection, or I mean, that's a tough shift physically, but
Yes.
in on your body, and then to rely on callers. I'm doing a call and then he would, he would get people. He would talk people into working with him or calling for free for nothing. I gotta fill 4 hours. You don't know how hard it is. He'd have callers who he would make co-hosts for like the 3 o'clock hour. Lettuce heads joining us, you know. And oh man, it's just so unique. I don't know how, but yeah, I mean that's what you have to do. I mean, the jobs in radio are so
Right.
precious. They're so few, but they're so you know, it's like gold to get a job. And if you can get in overnight, yeah, you want to get there, do well, bust onto a daytime shift. And he did fill in. He was Angelo's fill in for a while, which is a big deal. The
Right.
morning show, prime time. But, and then, you know, I don't know. It eventually just wore. I mean, he would not let a gig go. I said, Eddie, you got to not do some of these Quizzos. Anything for money, we couldn't. I'm with them too. We just couldn't say no to, because you don't know when your next gig, you know,
Right.
you could get fired next week. You never say no to work.
Yeah, he was. I, I I will always treasure those calls. I'd be driving down City Line after a game, and I would get a call from, "Hey, can you come on now?" And I'm like, and somehow or another, he knew enough about the game. Maybe he was there before he went in. It was, I
Oh,
treasure.
and there was no hesitation of whether it's appropriate to call you or to ask for this. He just pushed and he did it, and he had a way of selling it. Come on, it'll be good for you, Phil. Come on my show. Be good for your program.
Joe, why does Joe Conklin resonate in Philadelphia?
Because I'm a Philadelphian. I mean, look at you. I'm the same thing. We're a product of our city. You know, the culture. Um, we don't know any better. We don't know any different. Uh, and you know, that's funny. I've been thinking the last few years, it's changing here, and it's changing because our teams are starting to win. We got 2 Super Bowl championships now. We have a World Series championship in 2008. 80 was like the biggest thing that ever happened in my life. That was like, wow. But for years, everybody was still stuck on 64. And that was part of the Philly psyche. And that's what you and I grew up with. They're going to find a way to lose. Winning happens to other towns, it doesn't happen here. I'll tell you why. We'll list 5 things that they did last night that explain that they're never going to win anything here, and it was part of, you know, woe is me. You know, it's just the way it was, and and I made a living out of it. So did everybody at WIP for a while. But it's different now. Our psyche has changed a bit. We are, winning does that. Winning. Now, I'm not saying we don't want to. We don't. Our yearning or want for a winner is any less. It's not. But uh, we're not nuts. We're not as nuts and ready to snap and ready to kill somebody as much as we were 10 or 15 years ago. Do
Whole,
you agree with that?
wholeheartedly agree. And I've actually talked to others in the industry, and they'll say they think it's the Super Bowl. They think the first Super Bowl
Yeah.
flipped everybody.
Yeah.
And I guess if you go back, like think about the the and I'm using this word lightly, but the hatred of a Donovan McNabb, and you're like, the rest of the country's thinking that like, yo, this guy is like really special. Or and to Andy Reid's credit, like he won the city over just being like he would be a guy that would be in your Kensington bar. Like he looked like that guy. So I think he got away. Not that he isn't brilliant. He's a Hall of Famer, but uh, so many other managers and coaches and players have been just eaten up by this.
Well, I mean, take those two right there. I still have a problem with both of them. McNabb probably won more playoff games than any other quarterback, and he's might be ranked as the best quarterback in Eagles history. He never won the big one, so he doesn't. And his style points were tough for me. I thought McNabb was passive aggressive. He threw his teammates under the bus. He wasn't a true leader. Anybody comes out calling themselves a leader is not really a leader. Now, his teammates at the time, Ike Reese and Hugh Douglas, who played, they have a better idea, they can tell you, they'll probably straighten me out and say, but for me as a fan, you didn't bring us over the top, and you always had excuses. And in my neighborhood,
Nobody
that
does.
wouldn't have got over.
No excuses. Is there anything, was there any unusual circumstances with your use of a voice from a celebrity anywhere along the line where somebody was like, I'm going to kill you?
Oh yeah. First one I think was Ricky Waters.
Oh, geez.
Like, Dag, my girlfriend, she's Chinese. Oh, we can't even do that anymore. Well, we got away with so much in the '90s, for better or worse, whatever. I mean, you can't do anything anymore. The whole world has changed. We all know that. But we pushed it with Angelo. I mean, I was the benefit of such a great crew. Morgani basically thought of almost every bit that we did. Um, and very few people know that. I had a couple writers. Wechter was writing jokes. Al would write jokes, and we'd do these bits where we would just crucify these, you know, Laurie and Banner and Andy Reid in any different situation. So the Eagles were always king, they always won. So
That's,
Ray Rhodes, you remember when
that's,
Ray Rhodes and Ricky Waters were at the same time. You will remember when Ray, with his press conferences, had to be bleeped. They couldn't even air them anymore because it's true. Ray would be dropping f bombs at noon, on a live press conference, so they had to put a tape delay in for Ray, and he had famously or infamously said that you gotta hate your enemy. You gotta hate them. You gotta treat that team like they're coming into town. They're gonna try to
oh, yes,
break into your house.
I
And
know.
all right, so he comes up to me. This is an outrageous, but it's a fun little story. I used to I don't even know if you can do this, but it's not too bad. Um, we did this. Ray said the word sodomy, okay, and it was very graphic, and he said another
Oh, jeez.
tense of the words. Uh, he basically said they're going to come into your house and do that to your family. So I used to do on stage at the banquets in front of Ray and everybody else. my Ray Rhodes, well again, like I said, the last loss hurt me deep down inside of me. Did I say side of me? And, and he grabbed me at the Adams Mark one night. I forget what banquet it was, but he goes, "Hey man, do me a favor. He was a nice guy, honestly, a little crazy, but do me a favor, man. Lay off that side of me shit. My boss was here tonight." Jeff Lurie was sitting there. And he just had it. He had it. I hit him about 5 times with it. And he just had enough.
Oh,
So Ricky Waters, I used to imitate him, and I had just heard that he was after me. Remember that growing up? Don't go
yeah. Oh,
down
yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Billy Hunter's down there. He's after you.
He's going to call you out.
You're gonna get
He's
your
gonna call
ass
you out
kicked.
for a fair one.
Yeah, and I wasn't beating anybody in a fair one. So Ricky Waters was after me for about 2 years. And Bill Berge, hey, let me tell you something. You make me sound like a chipmunk, and I'm not a chipmunk or a munchkin. And he would shake your hand and squeeze the hell out of me, put me in a headlock and hurt me.
Wow.
Vermeil, hey, coach, I just wanted to introduce myself. My name's Joe Conklin. I'm the guy that's been imitating you on the radio. Yeah, I know who you are. You got that frickin' part down pretty good, don't you? So that was the time when he came back. When he came back into coaching, recruited by Lurie, and then didn't get the job. This job was offered to me on 2 different occasions, and I'm not going to get down on my knees and beg Jeff Lurie to coach his frickin' football team. So we did frickin' Eagles talk with Dick Vermeil. How to, friend? Steve-O here with the coach. It's welcome to frickin' Eagles talk.
Oh man. Oh, this could go on forever. I have to ask you, do any of your personalities have any thoughts on how this Phillies season will play out or the Eagles season will play out, Joe?
Let me tell you something, Phil Martelli. I'm a Phillies fan. You know that. I always will be. I have a house in Philadelphia. The Phillies gonna blow it again. They don't have the character. They don't have the heart, and the best pitcher went down, and they don't hit in the clutch. I don't know. That was my
Charles.
my serious take by Charles Barkley.
I'll give you one, Joe, before I ask you my last question.
Sure.
This is, I gotta believe this is unique to Philadelphia. So I'm driving around this week since Turner's injury on Sunday, and I'm driving around and I'm listening to the talk radio.
Of course, sure.
And there can't be that many doctors in Philadelphia because everybody can diagnose a hamstring injury. What it means, how he walked, he turned off the field. Isn't it amazing? Like Zach Wheeler. I went to do talks after Zach Wheeler went down, and I said, all right, show of hands. How many of you in the last 48 hours have looked up shoulder injury to pitcher and when he will return? And everybody and this was all teachers, 300 teachers, 200 of them raised their hand.
Exactly.
I go, the other 100, somebody in your family did it for you.
Yeah. Well, I think did you say, I don't know if this is unique to Philadelphia at the front of this? I think there's something there. And that's why, sports radio will always be a thing in Philadelphia. That's why we're so lucky, or WIP is so lucky to be here in Philly. Are there that many people? I mean, across the board from, maintenance guys to PhDs involved in our sports where they're picking our teams. Maybe it's because we have so many people. I think this market is unique like that. Like New York, there's too many other people that are more important, or too many other things that are more important. Now, their fans are passionate. You can listen to that radio too. But Philadelphia and the other smaller markets, nobody cares enough. To have so many people, it goes back to your Philly thing, the neighborhood thing, the densely populated. Why is sports so important here? I don't really know the answer. It's kind of something we grew up with.
I have to chime in here too because Zach Wheeler's shoulder issue, apparently thoracic outlet syndrome, which only time anyone's ever heard of it was him and Markel Fultz. I'd argue more Philadelphians than doctors even know what that is at this point. It's ridiculous.
They have.
Thanks for bringing that name up.
Yeah.
Oh, brother. All right, Joe. We always end this segment this way. Who's made a difference in Joe Conklin's life?
Wow, that it's got to be my family, my older brothers. I would have to say, my dad was 40 years older than me, and my dad was a great person. But my two older brothers were the ones that showed me the way, mostly knocked me into shape. Continue to, not so much anymore, but have led the way. And my dad was. Whatever. They're great. He was pretty damn busy. But I idolize my older brothers. Like that's got to be it. He made a difference.
Well, I knew this, and we could go on and on. Joe, thanks for joining Make a Difference. Can't wait to see you real soon, and maybe it'll even be on Broad Street for one of these teams having a celebration.
Miss you, buddy. Thank you very much. You're the best, and I could listen to this all day. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks.
That was pretty terrific. I didn't know if I could put him on the spot or not. I wanted to see if maybe he had a Phil Martelli up his sleeve. I don't know if that was in the cards.
I don't know that one. You could have gone Temple football. You're 2-0 now, aren't you?
Yeah. Well, the Owls looking good, flying up the football power index.
Yeah, football power index. Who do you play this week?
Oklahoma.
Okay, that's a good one.
Yeah. That'll bring us back down to earth.
But Casey Keeler, we still get information, still get requests about, connecting with him, and hopefully they're playing at home, right?
Oklahoma at the link.
Wow.
I'll be there.
How about that one?
Yeah.
Hopefully there'll be some people on the upper deck. It'll get a feel.
I think it should see a pretty good crowd. There's some juice there for the first time in a long time. Joe, a Temple grad. I mean, it's funny to hear. I love to hear someone that's been on here and take a very similar route.
Yes.
I'm not nearly as funny, but I cannot do half the voices he does. But that
was great.
Unbelievable there, and really a lot of fun.
So I'm glad we went there. Now, where was I? Had a fascinating opportunity to go to Aston, PA, to the home of the Pause 5 podcast. They have all kinds of equipment. I've marveled about your equipment for over a year, and now there were 5 different speakers, panelists, terrific time with those guys. And then again, not being political, but I'm not listening to Robert Kennedy Jr. I went and got my flu shot. I went and got my COVID shot. I had to go to another state to get my COVID shot. I wasn't able to get it in Pennsylvania. I had to drive to Delaware to get it. But at the same time, I had a chance to catch up with our friend David Kelleher, start to get him involved in doing some fall, because remember, he's so active in the community. We want to promote what he's doing. And then I had a chance to connect. Alex Compton is a player that came from Wisconsin, came to St. Joseph's, transferred to Cornell, was an all-league, all-Ivy player, and then went on to be famous in the Philippines, like a famous basketball player. We've connected. He's back in Madison, Wisconsin. He's going to be a guest because he's very involved in youth sports. We're going to have him on. And then Dimitri Domani in Russia, had a chance to speak with him. And other than that, I was a little bit light. And now it picks up. So where will I go? Got to get to at least one of these Phillies-Mets 4-game series. I'm definitely going to get to at least one, if not more. And then I'll fly to Norfolk, Virginia. Jeff Jones, terrific player at Virginia, coach at Virginia, coach at American U, coach at Old Dominion, is running a Coaches versus Cancer gala, and he has asked me to moderate a panel discussion with Hall of Famer Roy Williams, Hall of Famer Jim Boeheim, Hall of Famer Nancy Lieberman. He's got a number of people. They're going to honor a family that's battled and is still battling cancer. And then Saturday morning, he's going to have a coaches clinic. I don't know how many people he will get, but in Norfolk, coaches clinic, that every coach on that panel, except for me, has won a national championship. Men and women's coaches going to be able to do that. Fly home, and then I'm going to St. Helena's in Bluebell to do a leadership talk with all the CYO people in Montgomery County. We'll take a CVC call. CVC, Philadelphia Coaches versus Cancer, is having a golf tournament at Lanark Country Club September 15th. And the alumni group, headed by John Griffin, we will meet that day to set up the breakfast for the end of the year. But anybody interested in golfing at Lanark on September the 15th, and it's a good day because I believe the Phillies are in LA that night. I'd have to check that again, but get a chance to rub shoulders with all of these coaches in Philadelphia, and they can give you an idea of what they're expecting for their teams. I will leave there and head to VCU. I'm going to make another visit down to VCU. So calendar's starting to pick up.
Busy,
I'm looking forward to it.
A lot going on.
I am looking forward to it. And it's going to be a big week. Big week. Got the Phillies and the Mets, the Phillies and the Royals. Sunday afternoon, you have
Super Bowl rematch.
Yeah.
Probably go the same way it went in February, would be my guess.
Well, the only thing is you're on the road and you're not quite clicking the same, but you have.
It'll be a tough game, and good chance they don't have Jalen Carter.
There's no announcement yet?
I haven't seen it yet. So as of this podcast recording, I haven't seen
we
it
could
yet.
do a whole nother podcast on
what
that was lunacy. I just can't.
Just a player being a bonehead.
I can't think of that. Like I can't even process. But talk about how to start a season. Like you have a season starting. The poor guy that went down, right? He was their fullback.
Yeah,
he went down on the first play.
Mm-hmm.
On the exact same play, a guy gets thrown. Your best defensive player gets thrown out. You have a rain delay. You have them going up and down the field, and you're thinking, are they going to need 35, 42 points to win the game? And it's the first game of the year. Chris Collinsworth must be exhausted after just that one game. But they got the win, and you have to build. No season. You never return to a season and say, well, we're the same as we were at the end. That's a challenge because you have to build. But my goodness, the quarterback, I don't know if there was a calmer person playing that sport.
He's just cool. He's just always cool, man. It's the why I'm forever confident in that team. And Fangio will get things going. Like they got a new secondary. They didn't have their best defensive player. Like they got no pressure on Dak, and the whole city was ready to like throw Adoree Jackson off the Ben Franklin Bridge. And you look back and it's like Dak Prescott at 188 yards passing. Like it wasn't that bad. Like
in Philadelphia, it's always bad. It's always bad if you're not the same as you were last February. And
they're 1-0 now.
That was quite a celebration, and congratulations to everybody involved. And I go back, we said it last week. They're not defending champs. They are the champions. I don't understand where this defending comes in, right? It's over, it's done, it's on the shelf. Now you move forward to try to be the champions this year. That defending stuff never really made sense to me because last year's team was a different team than this year's team. Not better, not worse, just different. So if everybody was coming back, then I could say, okay, yeah, well, but it's not the way it is. And we have a lot to look forward to, including next week. We're going back into the community. We have a West Philadelphia hero going to join us. Why are they a hero? Ordinary person doing extraordinary things on a daily basis, particularly for young people. that's what our guest is next week.
Very, very excited for that. Our thanks again to Joe Conklin for joining us. He was an absolute treat. If you're looking to get in touch with Phil and make a difference here, head on over to pnjmakeadifference.com. That's where Phil is trying to make a difference in the community, in the workplace, in the classroom, on and off the court. Go to pnjmakeadifference.com and tell him your story and see how you can get involved. We are at Make a Difference Pod on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. At Make a Diff Pod on X, Make a Difference with Phil Martelli on Facebook. And if you are watching on YouTube, feel free to like and subscribe. If you are listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, we would absolutely love that 5-star rating. If you're looking for the Martelli Minute, every morning, 6:30 on Instagram at Phil_Martelli. That is where you can find just about everything we are involved with here. I get 2 for you. Go Phils, go Birds.
I'll go Phils and go Birds.